The retractable roof, he swore, was locked. The calendar square arrived at 6:01 p.m., neat as a lineup card. Owners, suite reception, Meridian Stadium, late. 2 minutes later, Beck texted, "Don't wait up. Ops needs me to peek at the retractable roof motors after speeches. Proud of me." Read, he spends the heart when the rest of the sentence applies for diplomatic immunity. I turned the pasta down to a simmer that calls itself maturity and looked toward the stadium where the ribs of the roof rose like a hand halfway through a confession. The square on my phone pulsed once and then behaved. I rinsed an already clean spoon because sometimes unnecessary is the only honest verb available. At 6:25 my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize and a message that recognized me anyway. If the reception, in the suite level, why did he just badge the catwalk access for the roof? Staff door off the northwest service bay. Reader hates witnesses, cover it, then pull. I can stall sweep 2 minutes. Signed with a single letter, J, as if the alphabet had leaned on a stanchion and promised not to squeal. Jax runs nights at Meridian with the kind of patience that makes industrial motors remember their manners. He and Beck trade competence in a dialect of torque curves and donor moods. He and I have shared 2 cigarettes behind the scoreboard where wind pretends to be politics, and once we laughed hard enough that a security camera tried to learn timing. We have not touched. I remember not touching more clearly than most men remember vows. "Why tell me?" I wrote. "Because your calendar is polite and my badge logs aren't," he sent back. Because he looked up before he swiped. People only look up there when they want oxygen. Because locked is keep out the way champagne is hydration. The Northwest Bay smelled like new rubber and weather that had been bagged for future use. I palmed the reader's red eye and tugged the handle hard enough to remind it about intent. The stairwell breathed concrete and old adrenaline. It opened onto a steel catwalk that ran like a sentence around the inner lip of the stadium's biggest secret. Up here, lights stayed practical, and the city pretended to be a halo. He was where Jack said he'd be. At the hinge between sky and machinery, jacket off, shirt open 1 button past credible, tie folded into his pocket like a plausible denial. Opposite him leaned Kieran Haldane, developer, board vice chair, a roomer with a suite and a private elevator. Kieran rested 2 fingers on the guardrail with a posture that assumed physics worked for him. His hand hovered near Beck's wrist without landing, because proximity photographs better than contact when your brand buys spectacle and invoices discretion. "Locked looks expressive," I said. Beck turned. For a beat, Truth used his face like a scoreboard with the bulbs all working. Then the version of him that does handshakes and aisle seats arrived and found its light. "Call," he said. How did?" "Jax believes in nouns," I said. "I believe in doors." Kieran delivered a smile in the fluent tone of men who stopped needing tickets long ago. "We were discussing the roof," he said. "Patrons like to feel they've touched the weather." "I prefer weather that doesn't need an audience," I said. Beck took 1 step toward me and let the catwalk keep the second. "We were running a diagnostic," he said. He wanted to hear the motors without the crowd noise. "Sound is persuasive," Kieran said. He lifted both palms like parentheses tasteful enough to pass inspection. 2 minutes. The sweep is punctual and I have a plane." He drifted toward the drive assembly, a ring of gear teeth big enough to have an opinion, pausing to study the steel like it might confess to him. As he passed, 2 fingers tapped Beck's shoulder, punctuation, not possession. The roof panels stayed asleep, practicing obedience. Beck watched me the way men watch weather when they hope lightning has better plans. "I was going to text you," he said, lower now. using the register he keeps for early mornings and the soft under my jaw. After, I wanted to know I could leave this room without letting it write me. You wanted to be caught, I said, not punished, caught. He breathed out, and the catwalk accepted the weight of it without complaining. Yes. There is a height at which grammar resigns. I crossed the last strip of grated steel and put my mouth on his because machines deserve an honest witness. He kissed back with the relief of a man who has been paying interest on restraint, compounded nightly by applause. He tasted like reception bourbon and the slightly sweet ozone of motors. My thumb found the hinge of his jaw and pressed. He made the small, involuntary sound I keep receipts for. His palm slid under my shirt and settled between my shoulder blades like a promise that refuses notarization. We didn't undress. The cameras here are bored enough to learn fast, and the roof prefers supervision. He broke the kiss first because he knows the exact second heat applies for narrative. He leaned his forehead against mine. Somewhere a relay clicked like a polite cough. I didn't kiss him, he said. I wanted to want to, I texted Jax. You did, I said. He prefers oxygen to salvage. From the drive assembly, Kieran tilted his head with the tidy curiosity of men who assume maintenance will pose for them. He did not approach. The field below made a green vow to nobody. Come home, Beck said. After I thanked the person who reads logs like scripture, I said. Jax waited by the crossway with a coil of lanyard looped around 2 fingers and the kind of stillness that convinces steel to behave. He didn't smile. He also didn't make mercy expensive. Sweep hits the rim in 90, he said. If you don't want to explain yourselves to a flashlight that knows your shoes, take the east spur behind the ribbon board and down through the concessions prep. The kitchen cam believes every crate is a crate. You sent the message, I said. I opened a door, he said. You two remembered how to walk. The spur hallway smelled like popcorn that had decided to keep secrets. We passed pallets of cups stacked like dominoes with retirement plans, past a fryer that sleeps light, and a soda fountain that believes in stubbornness. The service gate let us out near the merch loading, where Knight had decided to be obedient. We took the long way home because lobbies write captions and sidewalks don't invoice. In the kitchen, the pasta forgave me for confusing patience with virtue. We ate standing, like mammals who know where the bowls live. He told me Kieran had been sculpting a compliment into a proposition for a month, and he had helped because selection feels like love when usefulness empties your pockets. I told him Jax had texted because some people choose air over alibi. He didn't ask whether Jax and I had ever been a worse idea. I didn't say how emergency lights make Jax's mouth look like punctuation that finally learned its purpose. We didn't fight. There wasn't a theater left to sell. Later, in bed, we left a sliver of cool like a reservation and then let it surrender because the night had already billed us for restraint. He kissed me with the steadiness I trust more than policy. I put my mouth at his jaw where certainty slacks and told it a morning. It was heat without spectacle. The building minded its radiators. The stadium downriver practiced forgetting names and we helped. Morning behaved. Coffee made its case. Sunlight stitched squares onto the tablecloth as if even the sun wanted a grid. The calendar square for tonight stayed blank, which in this town is the kink we can afford. Beck tied a tie over a throat I intend to retire with patience and kissed me like the door already knew our names. He left to explain reliability to a breakfast that thinks money is a law. At 9:09 a text arrived from a number saved under one letter. No rim cams saw anything but truss. I looped a travel limit test for 20. Consider it training. Jay, I sent, you're very proud of your training. He replied, I'm proud of your exit. No punctuation correct. By noon, a sports business blog posted a photo of Kieran on the 50-yard line with a caption about stewardship and fan experience. I scrolled past. It wasn't our room. At 1:23, Beck texted a photo of our kitchen plant basking in a competent rectangle of sun. Room exists, he wrote. The week pretended to be a schedule you could believe in. Tour dates, rigged checks, charity listicles. Kieran sent a revised pledge with fewer adjectives and more commas. Beck read to the part where the commas started to feel like a harness and set the paper face down. He touched his forehead to my temple for a slow count of 7. Air remembered how to work. 2 nights later, the stadium hosted a behind-the-roof family night. Honest wristbands, real kids, a rigger explaining safety with the patience of a man who likes his job. We went together, because sometimes the correct grammar is plural. Jax nodded once from the motor room like an usher who has already chosen a side. Kieran shook Beck's hand while a photographer instructed shadows to look heroic. A reporter asked about legacy. Beck pointed at a tech crouch to show a child why you never stand under a suspended load and said, "Legacy is what keeps rooms gentle." And the reporter wrote it down like she'd earned a truth. After, we walked the river path that mirrors the city back to itself. Beck slid 2 fingers into my back pocket in the way that says not mine but here, and the night looked away politely. We scorched dinner and ate it anyway. At the bedroom door, he kissed me the way good sentences land, without ornament, unavoidable. I answered as if verbs were the last honest currency. It did not stay tidy. It never does here. An anonymous account posted a grainy still from a catwalk camera, 2 silhouettes near the roof's great ring, one hand too near to be polite. The caption invented entanglement, the comments rented outrage and charged by the breath. I placed my phone next to the plant and watched the plant win. Beck texted me a different image. The motor room at noon, Jax showing a teenager how to read a vibration graph while a gearbox hummed contentment. Our version works for a living, he wrote. On Sunday, Jax texted, "Roof's quiet. Want a stool where nobody sells you a seat?" We went. He handed us paper cups of coffee that tasted like competence and showed us which limit switch lies first, why you never trust a door that apologizes, and the slight change in timbre a bearing makes before it admits defeat. He didn't flirt with anything, not even the truth. He stood with his hands in his jacket pockets and told us a joke about rich men who think torque is a metaphor. I liked him better for refusing to be necessary when he didn't need to be. Midweek, the city tried rain. The stadium took it like a compliment. Kieran hosted a press moment about community access. Beck spoke first, about bolts and volunteers and the joy of maintenance, the only speech that ages correctly. Kieran promised to help the city meet the sky on time, a sentence that managed to spend nothing and still collect applause. After, he shook Beck's hand and then looked at me with the careful respect of a man evaluating whether he cannot purchase. "You're both very good at exits," he said. "Practice," I said. He laughed because it was the only honest thing left on his card. A columnist with an adjective habit suggested Beck's access came courtesy of Private Tour. The piece included a photo of steel that could have been any steel and a paragraph that could have been any rumor. The comments did their choreography. I carried the plant to the sink and let the water talk to its roots like a promise we could keep. That night, we turned our phones face down and cooked like people who still believe heat tells the truth. On a wet Thursday, Jax texted a single word, weather, and we met him by the South Service door where the gutter negotiated with the downpour. He showed us which drain floods first, where to stand when lightning auditions for God, and how to hear the faint stutter that means a motor is about to forget itself. He didn't ask about the photo. We didn't say his name aloud. 3 people wide beneath a corrugated breath, we let the storm remove adjectives we didn't need. Life kept not being simple. Kieran kept sending commas that wanted homes. Beck kept returning them with better ones. The plant kept inventing a shade of green that makes vanity look domestic. We kept our calendar squares blank on purpose because blanks are the only promises rooms respect. Sometimes, after midnight, we walk the perimeter road and look up. From the street you can't see the catwalk, only a pale curve of roof pretending to be modest. That's as it should be. We circle the block of the stadium and go home without letting the building perform at us. He takes my wrist like a man reteaching himself the grammar of doors. I think about the roof and the 2 minutes that were enough, about how some rooms try to own you and others teach you how to leave correctly. Sometimes I think about Kieran paused by the gear ring like a man who wants to buy air and discovering it doesn't invoice. Sometimes I think about Jax's line, "I opened a door," and how it's the only biography I want for this version of us. Tonight's square is empty. We're leaving it that way. Let the stadium keep its speeches and the city its applause. We have the service gate, a plant we refuse to let die, and the quiet grammar of a decision that knows where it belongs. Not in the rumor, not in the photo, but in the mouth that learned to say come home and mean it. If we get caught again, let it be by each other. The rest of the world can rehearse weather. We'll be in the room that doesn't need it, counting breaths until they sound like a motor settling into kindness, and calling that enough.